Okay, so
Yeah.
welcome. I'm so excited that you're here today and like over the moon because I really look up to your journey and as a female entrepreneur and CEO of your own business. And like there is just so like everything you put out I really connect with, and it makes me want to grow as a person and of course a female business owner myself. So thank you. Welcome, C from Live Learn Dream.
Thank
And I
you.
really when we first started talking today, I really connected actually with what live learn dream means. You constantly, reach out and connect with people, and you're always teaching while you're kind of leveling up and scaling your own business, but you're also, lifting others up along the way, which is so
Oh,
special.
that's great feedback. Thank you. No, I mean, like live is mean to live in the present. Learn means to learn at any time. You're a student of life. So it doesn't mean that just because you ended your education, maybe you got a bachelor's degree, maybe not. Maybe like there's so much to learn in life, and it's not defined by society. And it's okay. Age doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The point is that you got to be open to learn anything and be a sponge, regardless, even if you're a master and the expert too. Like I learn things every single day. And to dream is not I like to talk about it how it's not something that's vague. It's something that's just a fantasy. It's something for you to be able to be curious about, what kind of new life you want to have. What do you want to, what's your ambition, and what do you want to achieve? And it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to, realize it too. And it's not something that's impossible. Everyone's impossible is their custom impossible box. And we're always in the middle of our own impossible level. And it's really hard because people judge their dream with someone else's dream, or maybe like through Instagram or whatever it may be. So sometimes your dream can be actually influenced by a lot of other people. So it's really understanding who you are and really understanding that dreams are really important to lift you up and transcend yourself to the next level.
Exactly. I read something the other day actually on Instagram. It's the Inspired to Write woman. And she said, jealousy is not a bad thing. Jealousy is just a way of life telling you that that's something you might like. That's somewhere where you might like to be. So let's stop treating jealous like such a bad word. Like
Yes, that's
like
strong.
this person showed you the way to get there, and I personally think, reach out to that person. A lot of people are really nice and they'll take the time to message you back, and if they don't, whatever. But
Yeah.
it's just that kind of, you have to overcome that fear, right?
Yeah,
um
it's definitely that. There's a lot of fear like on the daily, and it's just how we like process it, and we get better over time how we react to it, right?
exactly. I haven't written it today, but I have a little community, and I wanted to write specifically about this topic today, is to take the days when you're brave, because everyone has an up day and a down day, and take the days where you're kind of like having that extra energy and that extra momentum, and just do all your brave things that day, like as quick as you can.
Oh, yeah.
Like, like take advantage of how you feel, because tomorrow might be gone. So do all the things that like fit it all in. And it only takes a few seconds of bravery to really like message
Mm.
that person, or and it's gotten to the point where I forget how many people I've reached out to and messaged, and like especially with artists and like galleries and all that, I kind of forget all the things I've applied for. So when I get a yes, it's like a special surprise, because you're like, I don't know if I did that.
Well, you've planted the seed, right? And I think that goes very alongside with marketing in general, is that a
Mhm.
lot of entrepreneurs, we're in this world, in this generation of instant gratification. Everything that we're on teaches us and trains us to have instant gratification. So when there's the gap in the marketing industry, industry and, you know, new small business owners and startup owners and such, it's very much, they think, you know, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to just get it out there and it's going to go viral right away. Or like, oh my God, I only have 20 likes. What the heck is going on? And really, you know, it's not like that at all. You have to completely reframe it in a different way. And that reframing is anything to do with marketing. You're putting yourself out there for someone to find you, you know, and if you haven't gathered, you know, that strong presence, it's really hard for someone to find you. Everything that we do, you know, through digital and technology, everything is by search. So whether that's searching on Instagram, you know, for an artist, you know, an oil painter, or, you know, whatever it is, you know, or, you know, let's say a gallery, like that's how people find each other online. You know, it's not like this magical world, which we're probably going to get to into like VR and stuff, you know, in the future. But like,
I
not
know
like we're just walking around like Sims.
I was like, I'm not sure what he's talking about, but I'm sure we'll find out soon and be like, okay. You know, and then
Yeah, but
it's
you
gonna
plant the
become
seed.
normal. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 6 months later, it could be 9 months later, it could be a year or something like that. Your effort will come into fruition. You just might
Yeah.
not see it immediately. And it can really get to you, and it can really you can completely go in a really deep hole. But what I would love to, you know, tell your audience is that, you know, it's very normal to be planning something up to a year, and then releasing something and really not seeing the results until 6 to 12 months later. And so like if you get a call from a gallery, you know, a curator or, you know, a collector or something like that, they have their other things happening too. You know, the world does not surround, you know, unfortunately. But when they're in need, they need something, right? And like, let's say 3 months later, they're like, oh crap, I need a present. You know, I need a present that, you know, I don't know, about a dog or something like that, and, you know, whatever, you know, and then like, they're like, you're the first person that comes to mind kind of thing. So
But maybe
it's
you
when
didn't
people
even,
need it.
this is the way kind of marketing works. Maybe you didn't come to their mind, but you made a post about something else and it reminded them that they wanted that
Yes.
gift from. So I know you will feel strongly about this, but like consistency is key. And it doesn't have to be
Yes.
exactly like buy this, but tell a story and put a thing and all the different ways. And it's just a constant, you know, picking up momentum, sending reminders, and people will be like, oh right, yeah, actually I do need a mural, or I do need a
Exactly.
gift, or I did want that. And you just never know. And yeah, for artists, like it'd be ideal if you put out a collection of work and it's sold, but that like doesn't happen for 95% of artists. Like that's an unrealistic expectation.
Totally. And I think for artists too, it's, you know, I do think like, you know, when you see a lot of posts that's just like buy this, or, you know, a reminder of their piece and stuff like that. I think taking the step back as a creator and try to frame it as from a user's perspective. So everyone is a user. I'm a user. You're a user. How do we use Instagram, right? We don't just look at that one post. We binge. We go to someone's profile and binge their shit.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to swear here? Sorry. uh, you know, we go through things, you know, it's not like we're just looking at one piece of content and we're like, all right, let's go. You know, there's a little bit more to that. So I think telling your story, you know, showing who you are as a person, so they know that you're real. And also you can show your subject matter expertise through many different ways, not just through the art, but through the process, right? And so someone can really fall in love with how you do things, or your values, or, you know, the reasons why you do something, or, you know, whatever it may be. You know, you might think like, oh well, that's just my everyday life, or like that's not fun, or, you know, that's not interesting, because you might think you're not interesting. but like but from the user's perspective, you know, they do see that interesting, and there's a lot of various reasons why someone's going to want to buy from you. It's not just, oh, here's the output, you know, that's very cold,
Yeah.
you know, and it goes back to the one-on-one sales, you know, class, I guess, of, you know, you don't just scream, buy this, buy this, buy this, you know, unless you're selling fruits and you're in the market. I mean, that might work, but
Yeah, you
like,
don't
you
have
know,
to emotionally connect with an apple necessarily, but
yeah,
no,
we're doing a lot more than
like
that.
People want to connect with you. They want to hear, and I hear that all the time. Like I'll post some weird video of my kids pushing themselves down the stairs with a mattress, and people are like, "I love this." And I'm just like, it has nothing to do with my business, but they really do want to know that you're a human just like them, and that's why we're there, is to socially connect to other humans. We're not just there to shop. This is, especially in the last few years, the only way we have been able to connect. So that's really great advice. And yes, you're allowed to swear as much as you want. I drop bombs all the time on here.
Okay, great.
Okay, I want to talk, because you could probably talk marketing for like 5 hours straight. But I really want to hear about your journey, because it's so inspiring and it's so meaningful, and that's why actually I connected so strongly with you and your brand. And not only do I think you're extremely talented, and like I've seen a lot of the things you did, but can we start from like childhood? I want to hear your story, like your journey
Yeah.
from, because I've read about it, but I want you to share it.
Of course, I would love to. So my name is C, and I am half Korean, half Chinese, born and raised in Michigan. I'm the third child. I am not your academic badass. I'm not your stereotypical Asian. That's my sister. So they're like the complete academic heroes, A plus for everything, Gates Millennium Scholarship, the whole lot. I went to University of Michigan. I worked all my childhood. My dad has a Chinese carryout restaurant. So he still is at it to this day at 76 years old. And
Oh
that's
my
just how yeah, he's not
wow.
gonna stop. He doesn't know anything else, and I think the lesson I've learned from him, honestly, is understanding from an immigrant family, and from an immigrant point of view, that to work all the time isn't necessary. Like if you frame it a little bit differently, he just wants to keep things the same. It's not anything about more materialism or, wanting to do all this grand stuff or buying all this shit and stuff like that. It's nothing about that at all. It's about keeping the same quality of life that he is happy with, that he can be content with and everything. And he knows that if he stops working, then he wouldn't be able to, maybe get the same groceries, for example, with my mom, to cook the food that they want to eat and stuff like that. So it's just things
Mhm.
like that. But growing up, I have two older sisters, and it was really hard because they're 5 years and 7.5 years older than me. So really, I felt like I felt like I didn't feel like I had sisters growing up is the best way to put it. Like I really
Right.
felt like I was alone. I after school I would come home, they weren't there. They were out waitressing, they were out trying to meet ends. They're studying and everything or doing whatever they're doing, and I just didn't feel like I was there. So, anyways, as I was growing up, I was like, well, I gotta do something because I suck at academics. And when I mean suck, I don't mean like yes, I know like everyone has their standard and expectations and
Yeah,
range.
I
So
was bad in school too, so I'm just totally
I
like,
guess I could say I'm an average. I just wasn't above average. So, but I
mhm.
knew that I wasn't able to go and get submitted into a really prestigious university without something else. So I actually took it upon myself to apply for a full ride scholarship to Japan through a scholarship program, an exchange program called YFU, U for Understanding. And surprisingly, I was accepted. Um,
That's
so I went off
great.
to thank you, and it was a exchange program and everything. And so I learned how to speak Japanese. I learned how
Oh
to
my
write and
gosh.
everything. I don't know anything to this day. I might like remember some words and stuff like that, but I'm not proficient whatsoever today. Um, but that was a really important time for me because it gave me the life experience. Even though I'm Asian, it wasn't like I was still a foreigner there because I couldn't
Yeah,
speak Japanese
100%.
completely. I looked different. They couldn't like because I'm half two. You can't really tell what I am. So like even from an Asian point, they're like, "Who are you? What are you?" So like I had a lot of that. I had a mixed identity crisis basically. So
Mm.
so that happened, and because I studied abroad, I was actually able to get into University of Michigan through a bridge program. So I basically wasn't even allowed to really go inside because and be admitted because how low my GPA was. And my GPA was like, I think maybe like 3.7 maybe. I don't know. It was something like that. I don't know, like 3.6. I don't know, 3.4 to 3.7. I don't know. And so it wasn't like failing, but like still it wasn't enough to just pass through, to get into the university. So anyways, going through that, I got into U of M, and then I was like, doing communications and Asian studies. And then that's how I was starting to understand about journalism and just like, which dabbled into marketing a little bit. And then I actually studied abroad in Sydney. I was like, okay, well, I'm in college and I know that I need more life experience because that's what I'm best in is applying myself. So even though I may, in my terms, felt like I was a bad student, I was actually a really great student in other ways. I just learned differently. I'm more of a visual person. I am someone who, if you show me something, I will not only understand it immediately, but I can take it to the next level. And so to me, that was my superpower, and I identified that early on. If I didn't identify that early on, I don't know if I would be where I am today because I still use that like skill set, that we have internally. So anyway, so going through that, studied abroad in Australia, Sydney, Australia, at the University of New South Wales, did some business stuff there, and it was great. It was really, it opened my eyes to a lot of things. Then I popped back to Michigan, at University of Michigan. I graduated early, so I graduated like maybe 3.5 years or something, and I popped right back to Australia, and then I hooked up with a recruiter for the ad agency, like industry kind of thing, and went through an interview, and boom, I just said all the right words, I guess, and I just showed the passion. It's all luck, like if you think about it, like at that stage, when you're not in the industry yet, you don't have a resume yet, they're just like looking at you as a person. Are you going to be willing to do things? Are you going to be willing to, do you look like you're clicked, you're on, right? Because if you're looking like you're like in space and stuff like that, they're gonna like, I don't want, like, how am I supposed to tell you to do something, right?
If you can't get this interview, then I don't know what we're gonna do with you, right?
Yeah. And so like, that was a really big lesson. And that's how I got into the ad industry. And then what I learned though is while working on Microsoft, all the big brands, Coca-Cola, like every single global brand really you can think of, I really touched on. And that was really amazing how I learned a lot about being a woman and being as a minority as well. It was a little bit challenging, but I think because I was in the situation of an environment of being in Australia, which is very international, it's very much, they really hone in this work and life balance. So people go surfing in the morning and then they'll come right through the doors, they take a shower,
Yeah.
So I think I had the privilege, honestly, that I didn't know I had that privilege at that time to be in that such safe environment. Now, I was in Sydney for a long time. I climbed up the ladder really quickly from project management is my core discipline to UX design to then production to business transformation and operations. Like it was just a whole suite of stuff. And then, so that's why I was able to get my jack of all trades, but mastering it in so many different levels with different experiences. Through my portfolio. But then when I moved back to America and I was in Texas, that's when everything went like that's when I thought the earth was like it was like doomsday every day. And so what I mean by that, yeah. What I mean by that is I went into ad agencies and such, and in Texas, and I thought, Austin, Texas, being the best, the most liberal, I guess, city down there, and it's supposed to be the next and up and coming Silicon Valley. Is so I fell in their trap, of okay, this is like with really smart people. I wanted to have a mix of like my Michigan background of like being a suburban area, having a little bit more space, but it was a bit cheaper too. And I wanted the weather where it wasn't snowing and stuff like that, and didn't have the Arctic wind, like killing me. So I was like, this is the most perfect place ever, and there's not a lot of traffic like LA, and then New York is like, I got really spoiled in Australia and Sydney because like their public transportation is on point. It's very clean. Tax money goes into the like 4 people. So, but in New York City, the subway and everything is still a bit grimy and stuff, right? So it's I was just like, I'm not in that life anymore. I'm not in my 20s. Like, okay, let's go from here. So anyway, so back in Texas, I was hit with many all the discrimination, all the isms you can think of, ageism, sexism, and it was just really rough. Racism. There was HR situations too that the HR had my back, but I was like, why the hell did I even have to go through this? I was just so shocked, like culture shock. Even though I was born and raised in Michigan, my whole entire career, really started in Australia. And so the culture shock of being an adult, and working in Adland, I had certain expectations because I worked on an international level with global brands. But these folks didn't have that experience, and the organizations didn't have that experience either. And so that was really tough. It broke me down mentally. There was a lot of passive aggressiveness. There was a lot of it wasn't about, like, there's always going to be confrontations and fights and arguments and discussions, of course, in any organization or any industry. But to me, that wasn't the problem. The problem is I want to fight about the work on the table, not about people, not about who brought the idea to the table. And like that's like a waste of time, like,
Yeah.
like what I mean?
I'm so sorry
Like
that happened. Ugh.
yeah, so like let's talk about the different colors, but not about
Yeah.
so it
Can
was
we
just
just
really
focus on
wild.
work, right?
Yeah, like the technique, or just like the professional level. And then so it was a big culture shock. And so I'm in Seattle right now. We moved and we felt like we dodged a massive bullet, not just from the professional level, but with everything that's going on as a reflection of the country. And now looking back, even the past 4 months, holy crap, I think I dodged like seven major bullets, to be quite honest. And one could be literal too. So it was so now I'm in a better place. But when I was in Atlanta, I was making a lot of money. Like I was making, the 6 figures. I was making, all the good stuff. But the mental toll and the emotional destruction and trauma that didn't need to even happen, that's what scared me the most. And I was like, what is even happening? And then I realized I was a token Asian there. One, I was also very young in comparison to other people. So when I was putting an idea in the boardroom, it wasn't like someone else wanted to say it instead of me, or they couldn't hear it, even though I had paper as black and white. They wanted to basically discard it and put it under the rug. And it was saving networks and people instead of the product and the service and the business and the clients that they were serving. And to me, that went completely against my values. So when understanding that, I then was questioning about myself, about like, what the hell am I doing here? Is it for the money? Is it because I'm comfortable with this? Is this the only thing I know what to do, or how, what, like, I was like, what the hell is going on? And so when in a 9 to 5 era, for me, it was very much, is this it? Is this it? Is this the toxic cycle I have to do forever? Like, and I'm now at a senior level, but I've seen when you go, and I was, given a director level position, and I declined actually because I knew what would happen with directors when shit hits the fan. They're scapegoats. So,
Mhm.
and if you're a woman or someone of color, you're usually the first to be, and so it was just very difficult. So I already foresaw that, or could see where it could go if a event were to happen. And so there's all these things I had to think about, almost like when you're a woman, you're walking down the street at night and you're like, oh, well, if this happens, that happens, like, why do we even have to think of that shit, right? In the first place.
Yeah.
So,
Whoops. Yeah.
so to someone else who might not be in the shoes of, people like us, they might even think of this conversation as like, well, that's just like you're overthinking, or all that kind of stuff.
I'm
And
not
I
talking
actually,
about that. It's hard to imagine something
yeah,
when you've never had to, when you can't relate to it, when you've never had to experience something similar. It is hard to connect and relate. So
yeah,
but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, or that it did happen
right.
to you. over and over and over again, or many, many other people. And I said to my partner the other day when I was talking about your journey, and I said, I'm so excited about Cee's message and people hearing it, because I know that'll be so meaningful, because I bet you everyone can count what's more than their hands, like for females in
Yeah.
general, an experience that they've had in the workplace. Like we've all had them, and it doesn't need to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. But the more we talk about it, the more we move forward
You
and
can
say that
normalize it.
yes, and these are our expectations in a workplace. This is where we just want to be equal.
Right.
That's all we're
That's
asking
like the
for.
yeah, that's it, you know? And if we've done something wrong because on a professional level or didn't deliver whatever, that's like completely something else. And that's what we should be, that's what the performance review should really be.
Yeah, we're not taking
So
other people's jobs because we're a female or
yeah,
minority. We're just asking for equal opportunities and equal treatment in a workplace. And I don't know the stats in the US, but I had my friend Jill on. She's CEO of her own company, Red Bicycle Communications, and she started it from scratch. And she's like, it's still 16% in Canada
yeah,
are female business owners. That's a startling statistic. Like,
correct.
so
Yeah.
yeah, we're just asking for 50. It's just, equal.
Yeah, and as much as there's more voices as well coming out to say, as a small business owner or whatever it may be, so it may seem like things have really skyrocketed and everything, but it's not really the case. And I think that's something that is really hard, and we need journalists. We need the media to help us to showcase, what is the real situation versus what feels loud on Twitter, on Instagram, or whatever. They're like, well, there's so many of them now, and it's like, no, not necessarily. So I think that's a really good point. And I think that should really be the hope and motivation for, a lot of women business owners to not give up. And a lot of people give up, and I
Well,
and
it's
I
'cause it's
know
so
why.
hard.
Yeah, it's
I
really
like
hard.
I feel very tired every day, and I'm sure you
Yeah.
do too. Like, because you're just like what the world is asking of us, and that the pressure we're putting on ourselves is just so much more, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
And I think like,
but I don't want to give it up. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I think it's
yeah,
hard. It's definitely hard. And, even our resources are very limited. And I think, the communities that like even, the one that you have and everything, this is really the magic sauce. Like this is the starting point, you know what I mean? And this is where um we need to do more of, and we need to really connect. And I wish it could be connected more in a more mainstream way, to be honest, but we're just not there yet. And that's the reality of it. And I think we're really doing the best we can, and things can't change overnight, just like marketing output. It's
yeah,
not
just
overnight. So, it's kind of like give yourself the grace, forgive yourself, be kind to yourself. Just know that, if you feel really deep in your gut to keep on going, like then just do it. And I think, with the advertising experience I had in Texas, near my end of 9 to 5, I felt like I had nowhere to go. I did apply to a tech job because I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll move from Adland and in-house specifically in tech. And I got a job offer. And it was just something that I had to really ask myself, is this something that I really want to do? Like, okay, cool, security, whatever. But like, I think the creative juices in me was just
you're
saying like,
super
you're
creative.
gonna wanna freaking leave after their 6 months. So
Yeah.
whose time are you wasting? Probably both. And
Mm.
and I'll share this in this vulnerable moment that I was so torn with making that decision. I think I almost got alcohol poisoning. Like my boyfriend found me in the apartment after I was basically blacked out. So it was something that was such a tremendous pressure on me to know about security versus taking risk.
Mm.
And from that point onwards, obviously, I haven't done anything reckless since then, and realized that if I am ever in a position like that again, to not abuse any substance, I guess is the best way to put it. And that it's confronting with your fear, it's confronting with and talking to yourself and how to react with that, and finding healthier ways to go through it. Because no matter what you do, whatever is going to release the dopamine, or, let's say you can escape from it by, for example, an escapism for me is playing games. And
Sorry.
I had to stop that. Oh, what happened? Oh no, I'm so
No,
sorry.
no, I was not expecting this conversation to come.
Oh,
So, no, I want to keep hearing your story. I went through workplace harassment, and I did too. I also abused substances to get through it, and not substances, not like hard drugs, but alcohol. And thank you for sharing. It's important to talk about those things. Yeah. So, and now I don't drink. So, because of that experience. So, please keep going, because it is such an important message.
yeah.
And you're just speaking about like the dark, like you just brought up feelings.
Yeah.
Really,
So
the
sorry.
darkest in my life, which was before children, and yeah,
It's traumatizing, and yeah, so my boyfriend, he sat me down and he was like, "Look, we cannot do this again." Like it was he's like, "I would lose you, and if this cannot be under control, then like I can't be a part of this." And that was the wake up call, honestly, for me to, okay, I can't just, continue stalling around, and I need to make a decision, and it's just be that's it. And then so through that, I remember we were in our apartment, and there's this concept called ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese concept for the reason for being. It's your purpose, basically. And it looks like two Venn diagrams together, it's four circles. And it might be like, okay, this is like another exercise. It's like another worksheet shit thingy my bobber. It's not about that. The point is that it's a mirror, is a reflection of yourself. So like what you get paid for, what you love to do, what are your skills, what can you give back to the world, kind of thing, or what do you want to give back to the world, or whatever. And when I sat down, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna talk to myself now. I sat down, locked myself in a room for 1 hour. In that 1 hour, because I was willing to open up to myself, this isn't gonna work if you're just gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna look at a piece of paper. You have to be willing to confront yourself. And when I was going through the bullet points and everything, it's like, yeah, I love Korean variety shows. I love K-pop. I love this kind of stuff. Why don't I ever share this with people and stuff like that? And it was because I had to have a certain image at work. I didn't want to be seen as like this childish person. It was very difficult. So anyways, I went through everything, and then that's how actually Live, Learn, Dream was born. I realized that I do want to have fun. I still want to be that kid inside. I wanted to be, and I shouldn't be ashamed with the things I enjoy. In all of the years of having my high heels on and my fancy, Rent the Runway clothes and everything, and the specific superior image I needed so I can walk into boardrooms and feel confident, which is definitely a thing, and that's not something to be, ashamed of or anything. But I was being confident, or I was doing that for the wrong reasons. And that is the most important thing. And that's something that people from the outside will never know. And so that's when you feel like you get judged, or when you feel like but that's something that's a whole nother issue. But anyways, I did the ikigai, and I realized I had to every single question. And then as I was processing it in my mind, it was like, wait, is this something I like? Or did someone tell me in the past, or they brought me along and said, see, look at this, And I was like, yeah, okay, this is cool. So I really had to go down to even the early years of childhood, even my sisters, my many groups of friends that would cycle throughout the years. Different locations, everything. And I had to really go that deep. And so I had to understand, okay, what are these false layers of truths? And is this really me? or is this the facade that was created to then was the external version of me that I would say from my mouth that I like this or whatever it is? That was incredibly different, like difficult. And if you can get to that level of with yourself, you've just opened the Pandora box of a new you. And that is when my transformation journey truly began in personal growth.
Mm.
So, and when I would explain this stuff to even like a therapist or the doctors or psychiatrists, they're like, "How are you even here?" They're like, ask me, they're like, "How are you even here? This is something that people in their 50s and 60s go through." And I guess I just went through a lot of shit, in my past that accelerated that. So I felt also like hatred almost to the world
I can
why
be
I
really
even had to go
angry.
through
Yeah.
this right now. I'm 31 years old. I'm not 50. I'm not 60. Like, like why? I don't even I'm not married. I don't have kids. Like, why am I going through this? Right. And so that though is I'm a real life example of of a minority that from an immigrant family that had to go through a lot of stuff, and this is just a story that I know a lot of people are going through. But anyways, through the Ikigai, Live Learn Dream was born, and then as much as I had that epiphany and I thought, oh my God, I had my aha moment. I know what I want to do. I didn't know exactly what it was. I just knew the direction now. So now I had like the
And where
concept
you
idea.
didn't want to go. You have an idea where
Yeah,
you didn't want to go, which is that's even maybe more difficult because.
it was the most difficult thing. It's still difficult. And I
Mm-hmm,
think that's something I want to really, if there's one thing I would want people to take away from this, is that it's still fucking difficult.
mm-hmm,
And it doesn't matter about the CEO title. It doesn't matter about, what you see on Insta and everything. It's still difficult. And it's always going to be difficult. And it's what I'm learning. It's just how we go through it, how we respond to it, is what makes it different. And so throughout the past 2.5 years since the whole Ikigai moment, I have gone through waves of depression and anxiety and oh my goodness, everything. It was to the point I had even learned to even be on Instagram to show my personal life, because back when I was in corporate, I had to really separate my life, like even in Sydney, because it didn't matter if I did, because they didn't care. But in America, they do care. They want to like know everything about you. I'm like, I don't want you to know everything about me. Like, can you just back off? Like, I talk to you like all the time. Like, like I don't want to talk to you on the weekends. But like, I'm an introvert, so like I need my times to talk and stuff. So anyways, my energy. But like so what I'm trying to say is that it was really hard. I went through a lot. I had to learn to change my relationship with money, how I saw money, how I dealt with money, how I received money, how I gave money, how making mistakes with money, finding success with money, whatever it may be. And then with every other category in personal growth too, like, is this something that I really want? And so last year in 2020, I really dabbled across a lot of different areas. And I needed to do that because I had to play. So as a small business owner, it was very much, okay, you want to make money, but it's not that. For me, it was, I wanted to be my own boss. But then so 1 year passed after that, and like dabbling around, seeing like what interests me or what I can do forever or for a long time, for hours to end. And you need that time to play. And if you feel like you're gonna pick one direction, most likely you're gonna change it. Just like when you first go into college and you think you're gonna go with that one major, you might probably change it. But it's a little bit more realistic in the business sense, because you'll know very quickly if this is something that you want to do or not. And when it's under your own turf, so my own business, I am the boss. I am the one who's directing, and I got really angry at myself when I was doing things that I didn't like, and I couldn't say no, or I didn't know how to say no, or I didn't know why I felt the way I did when I'm finally free, I guess, but I wasn't free from myself. So, and I'm still working on that, honestly. I'm really still working on that. Like, what do I really want to do? And what should I be focusing on and stuff like that? And it's really tough. And now I understand too, though, as a small business owner and going into the startup world, is that I have time. I have 60 more years to execute. I a lot of time. Sure, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow,
Yeah.
then so be it. But at least, I'm in an environment I created with my own hands to say, okay, this is the playground I want to work in, no matter how hard it is, because I'd rather work in the playground that I have fucked up on rather than
Yeah.
someone else has fucked up for me. And that
Yeah.
was the biggest difference.
Wow. Thank you. That there's so much in that, and it's so important to talk about, the journey. And I probably say this quote in every podcast episode, but Mark Manson, in his, I have it right here, um, the subtle art of not giving a fuck, is
Yeah.
that you, and what you just spoke about is, he said, everything sucks some of the time. Everything you do is not going to be easy, and not but at least make it be something you're passionate about, something you love, something you want to wake up and do in the morning. It's not, it's just, that's the reality of the world. Make sure at least you're doing the thing you love, and then you won't mind doing the shitty parts. Right.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And even when doing the shitty parts too, I think it's so for example, I hate finance. Um it's like I
We're
just
so
hate
lucky.
it.
Me too. I'm an average
It's
student
just
who hates finance. Thank you. I'm
yeah,
there.
it's I can do your basic math and subtraction and stuff like that, but and I can do scope of works and stuff like that and the budgeting and stuff. But when it comes to running the business, the operation part of it, it's my least favorite thing to do. But it's the most important thing to do. So whether I like it or not, when you're a small business owner, you're your own boss, you're doing a shit ton of things. You're wearing a million hats, right? So you can't just run
Ignore
away
it.
from that forever. Yeah, you need to know your numbers, whether you like it or not. And honestly, that's been the hardest thing for me. Like I don't want to look at it. I just want to go in my hole and just create, and I want to design, and I want to just have fun. But I think that's for the world of people who are billionaires and millionaires who have the different departments, right? That can do that for them. And so I think the reality check as a small business owner or as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, whatever you label yourself, is you're going to have to do things that you don't like doing, and that's okay. But know what your strengths and weaknesses are so that when you are ready and you have enough capital or enough consistency of sales or whatever it is, that you can outsource. And outsource doesn't mean necessarily Fiverr. And when I mean outsource, I just mean someone who's not you. And, but you need to know the basics of it so that when you do review it, you know exactly what went wrong or not, and you can provide that feedback. That's that minimum that you need to know for your weakness. Would be my biggest advice from one entrepreneur to another.
Yeah. No, I agree. My studio manager now does my finances, but that's a big step to be like, well, I'm gonna let this person into all that information. It's a huge, who can I trust? It's hard to find the right people, but it's worth it, and it's worth fighting to get there, or you'll never grow. You'll just stay where you are, and those steps are essential. And I know we had a conversation a few months ago, and I finally hired someone for ad copy, placements, or not copy. I still make copy, but the placements, because that's a whole job, ad placement, that's really, and I kind of understood it, but maybe 40%. And I was trying to do it, and I was doing it kind of wrong. So, and now it's my site is up 150%. That's insane from hiring that one person. And when it comes to advertising, the more you put in, the more, well, if it's working, the more you will receive, right? Maybe not right away, but eventually. So those first steps are scary, and maybe you don't have the money, but then I guess you just scrimp by or try to get a loan or make a plan, or you're just going to be stuck kind of where you are, I think.
Totally. And I think it's the delegation part is hard, but then it's not just the delegation, it's the risk, because you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so you don't know what the outcome even looks like. You don't even know what can come from it. It can be a complete flop for many different reasons.
Yeah.
And I think, even on the corporate side of things with big brands, they bring in consultants and subject matter experts every single freaking day, and that's no different to any other business owner. But I think for solopreneurs, who's running the business themselves at this point in time or whatever, like it's very difficult. It's a mental block. It's a struggle. The struggle is real. It's not something to feel like, oh my God, why can't I do this? Like that's just like punching yourself, which I'm sure we do all the time. But like at the same time, you need to get a hold of that, and you need to move on from that. And that decision can only be made with yourself. And like I was saying about before about, the relationship I had changed with myself and finance is that as a like by myself, like it's okay to make mistakes. And you might feel like, fuck, I just like spent thousands of dollars on this and it didn't come out the way I wanted to. There could be many different reasons why it didn't come out to the way that you wanted. Maybe it wasn't finding the right person. Maybe the brief wasn't right. Maybe it was the communication, the expectations. And honestly, from a global level too, with global corporations and agencies, that same fuck up happens all the time with millions of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're on a different scale. It just feels a little bit more personal because we're so attached to the money because we see it in our bank accounts. Whereas when
Mm-hmm.
you're in corporate, you don't see it. There's many walls in between. So it's just something that now that all the walls have fallen because you're in charge of everything, it's a lot to handle. So it's hard, and it's just something to know that you're not alone, and to find communities like this one to be able to talk about it, have a free, open space to be able to allow yourself to talk about it and not be embarrassed about it, and realizing that help is actually right around the corner more than you really know. It's just more about where to ask for help, and then when you receive that help, just know that it's advice that's on the table and you can take it or leave it. So here are all the things, but it's on you to take it or leave it. You don't have to take every single thing. And that's the life advice that I have stuck by for many, many years, is that you listen to all the solutions, you listen to all the possibilities, be respectful, but it's on you to make that decision. You are the decision maker.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so powerful. And it's so great. And I think we're coming to a time where um, female business owners and female entrepreneurs are actually leaning on one another so much, and it's rising above competition.
Yeah.
But there's enough out there for everyone, and I don't know where that came from, but I know it happened for many years that women were competing against one another, and I really love the shift. And I don't know if
Yeah.
you feel that, but I have felt a major shift in the world. And I
I
think the
feel it too.
more, yeah, feel the
I
more
feel
we
it
connect,
too.
the more we reach out to one another and ask for help, that's when, amazing, statistically changing the world, and it happens, right? So I'm really proud that you're really putting yourself out there, and you're open to the abundance mindset. And I met you because of that. I met you through Kat, who has a
Mhm.
great, she has the Art Queens and so many other things. We would have to start another podcast to list what she's doing.
She's an amazing superwoman. She does all the
Yeah,
things to serve.
and she's so kind and generous about it. But
Yes.
and I think she sets a great example, and has connected so many of us, and I'm really grateful. So yeah, thank you for being here. Where
Of
can
course.
everyone find you and reach out? And also, you have a beautiful community too. So just let everyone know where they can find you. I said that, but I'll say it
Yes.
again.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I really had a fun time here, and being able to catch up with you, Brandy. And everyone can find me on Instagram at Live Learn Dream. You can go into the membership for 1 month free trial at livelearndream.com. We will be putting a lot more content in there, so that's something to really look out for. But yeah, check out at Live Learn Dream to see what those content's going to look like as we relaunch. And I really hope to see you around and just connect. I think that's the biggest thing, is that, it's not about, like, I think, putting where you want your money to be received is really important. So, for me, I've been extra conscious, I think, the past 2 years for, where my money is going, even locally and stuff like that, with food, going to the farmer's market and everything. So, I think as support is priceless. And its support can just mean even just, commenting, or, sharing, or, creating that community. And then, like we said from the beginning of this podcast, if you need something down the road, then you know who to call. So you can find me at Live Learn Dream, and we do marketing. So yeah, and show it website designs.
No, it's so amazing, and thank you for being so raw and open. Obviously, that surprised me, and I really appreciate it, though. And so lovely to see you again.
Thank you.